I'm Councillor Nando Unique. I have the pleasure of being the councillor for this area, and I'm your Master of Ceremonies this afternoon as well. The first thing I would like to do is, now that all our friends are on stage, is to introduce the people that I've got on stage with me this afternoon. As I said, I'm Councillor Nando Unique. With me is Mayor Hazel McCallion from the City of Mississauga. Should I point her out? Does anybody know? Hazel? Our very, very honored guest, Dr. Martin Dobkin. Dr. Martin's wife, Michelle Dobkin. And the family is daughter Carolyn Dobkin, son Alan Dobkin, and I understand we have the woman here that's responsible for all of it, mother to Dr. Dobkin, Mary Dobkin. We also have Rabbi Joseph Kelman here with us today, and also Mary Beth Gignac. So with that, and having welcomed our guests, and thanks to you all for being here, I'd like you all to rise and join us in the singing of O Canada with Ms. Mary Beth Gignac. Mary Beth, if you'd come forward, please.
Thank you. It is indeed an honor to have been asked to sing at today's ceremony. So if you'd all please like to join in singing as we celebrate this year's Canada 125th birthday. O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Mary Beth, thank you very much for that. Very appropriate as we commemorate Canada's 125th year. I've already introduced the stage guests, and before I call upon Her Worship Mayor McCallion to say a few words, I think there are in the audience some old colleagues of Dr. Dobkin, some colleagues of mine. I saw Councillor Frank McKechnie here. Frank, where are you? There he is. There'd be another one in the audience, Councillor Cullum from Ward 6. David, thank you for coming. And I see Councillor Dale as well from Ward 4, who was kind enough to give this land to me. Thank you very much, Frank. I also saw our Commissioner of Parks and Community Planning, Mr. McCrae. Now, if he could just say hello, where did Mr. McCrae run off to? And I saw, there he is, he's got the whole family here. And the Director of Parks and Recreation, I saw Ian Scott here as well. Oh, and Hubert Worth, the former councillor. Very good. Thank you, David. So with that, I welcome all of you. I'm glad you could make it as well. Yes. And now I'd like to call upon Mayor Hazel McCallion for a few words. Hazel?
Thank you very much, Councillor Unica. What a beautiful day for this very special event in which we're paying tribute to someone who served this city, in fact, the first mayor of the city. And I want to welcome the Dobkin family back to Mississauga. There's only one mistake they made. They moved away from Canada's most important city to our suburb, Toronto, which is unfortunate, Martin. I thought you had your priorities really straight, but anyway, I'm delighted to welcome Rabbi Feldman here. He was participated in the first inaugural council meeting of the City of Mississauga, and it's great to have you here.
Thank you.
And then, of course, Martin's mother. It's too bad his dad can't be with us today. I got to know Martin's mom and dad very well while he was mayor, and we welcome you. It's a pleasure to have you here. Today we're going to open, and I especially want to welcome Hubert Wolf back, who served with us on council. And of course, Councillor McKechnie, he never ends serving. 32 years serving. Nobody can beat that. Today we, you know, this city Some people say we're asphalting it. I can assure you that is far from the truth. When you think of this 26-acre park right here in the heart of the city and more parks to be established here, I can assure you that we are setting aside, under the direction of Ian Scott, who was our Commissioner of Parks and Rec, and the staff of the city and the elected people, I can assure you that we are preserving a lot of land for the citizens of Mississauga and providing the recreational facilities as well. So I just want to assure you that when somebody says to you there's not enough parkland in Mississauga, I give them a copy of the map of the parks. They don't know where half of them are, because we have preserved thousands of acres of parkland. And then when it comes to planting of trees and woodlots, you know, they say, well, you know, you're cutting down the trees. Ladies and gentlemen and young people, I want you to know that at the present time we have 5 times as many trees as when the town of Mississauga and the town of Streetsville and the town of Port Credit, and especially the town of Mississauga, was farmland. Because I haven't found a farmer yet that grew trees. He cleared the land to plow it and to grow crops. So we have far more trees in Mississauga than we ever had before. Now today we're recognizing the valuable contribution of a gentleman that was the first mayor of this great city of Mississauga. And I want to remind Martin of the day that he dropped in to the office of the mayor of Streetsville. This short little guy came in, never met him before, sat in a chair and said, "I'm running for mayor of Mississauga." And I thought, boy, the gall of the guy. "What have you done in politics?" He said, "Nothing." And then he added, "And I'm going to win." So, and he did. And he did. That's the determination of the young man then, and he's still rather young compared to the present mayor. I'm not sure he can keep up to the present mayor, though. Not sure about that, Martin. Anyway, he, as the first mayor of this city, putting together 3 municipalities, putting together the staff of 3 municipalities, was not an easy task for the first council that served this city, I can assure you. But it was a challenge, and Martin always appreciated a challenge. He had very definite ideas. In fact, some of his definite ideas got him in trouble. But I can assure you he had a very definite idea as to how this city should develop, that it should develop for people. And through his efforts and his determination, we came forward with an official plan for this great city of Mississauga, an official plan that has set the pattern for Canada's 9th largest city and may become, in fact, Canada's largest city when it's fully developed. And so, Martin, today we recognize the contribution he made. And I can't think of a better way of recognizing a person who has served their community, who are prepared to give of their time and talents to a community. You know, it's not easy to be in public office because sometimes you can't seem to, well, you don't please everybody all of the time. We learned that. But I can assure you there's always controversy and questions and challenges. But I can assure you that all of us who serve the city, the 3 councillors that are with me today, I can assure you that we do our best. We give our best. We're not perfect, as I often say at council. We're close to it, though. And but we give our very best to the community, and we try to get people involved, because we need the involvement of the people to build this great city of Mississauga. Don't let government do it all, as has been the past trend. The citizens must get involved, and they are involved. They're involved in tree planting. They're involved in many of our community efforts, and that is what is so important. We depend so much on volunteers. Now today we're opening a park with a beautiful lighted baseball diamonds, or soccer field, I believe. Look at these beautiful tennis courts. You know, they just don't happen. There's a lot of money, so when you worry about your taxes, remember, you can't build these facilities without tax dollars. Now I want to remind you, and I can't help, Martin, I want to tell you that we're debt-free now in the city of Mississauga. We haven't borrowed any money for 15 years. And I can assure you this year we gave the taxpayers, the city's portion of the tax bill, zero. Zero. Because that's what we believe the people wanted. And that's what we believe they're demanding. And through fiscal constraints, sound financial management, and determination to make sure that we don't follow in the footsteps of the federal and provincial government that are in debt to their ears, Mississauga is setting a pattern. And I'm sure, Martin, as the first mayor, you're proud of our record, that we are now debt-free, and yet we have provided all these many facilities in the city. Built a beautiful civic center, a beautiful central library, which we opened last year. So you can see that we really do run the city like a business. And other levels of government could certainly learn a lot from the city of Mississauga. So I'm delighted to welcome you here today, to welcome Martin and his family. You know, they were just, I think his son was 4 months old when he became mayor of Mississauga, and look at him today, and his lovely daughter. So I assure you, Martin, we're delighted to have you here, and I know that many of your friends are here today. Martin left a mark on this city, and we have carried forward with other programs and many new ideas. And today we stand here today to welcome this beautiful park in the city of Mississauga, great facility that the people of this central core are going to thoroughly enjoy, Nando, in your ward. And I can assure you, Martin, this is a tribute to you for the years you served as the first mayor of this great city of Mississauga. Thank you for your contribution.
Hazel, thank you very much for those remarks, and I was a little remiss. I forgot the other half of the McCallion clan that I see is here, so I'd also like to introduce Mr. Sam McCallion, Hazel's husband. Sam, hello, thank you for coming out as well. With that, before I introduce our guest of honor for some remarks, I'll give you a little bit of the background on him, and the first thing that jumped out at me when I read about his background was the full title of the name, Martin Dobkin, MD. And as a politician, you've got to ask yourself why anybody with the initials MD after his name would take the pay cut to become a politician and serve his community, but that's really quite an attribute in and of itself. I understand Martin is 50 years old, which is also remarkable in terms of what he has achieved within half a century. That truly is amazing. You've met the family here. He's a graduate of Coburg Collegiate Secondary School, went to Queen's, where he graduated MD in 1996. I see rotating internship as well. Oh, sorry, 1966, 76. Trying to help you out there, Martin. Just trying to help you out. I understand he was also on a rotating internship in Montreal and that he speaks French as well. And amongst his professional attributes, Mississauga Hospital, active staff, family practice, 1986 until present. City Center Medical Clinic in Mississauga, the senior physician. Mississauga Hospital emergency physician for 68 to 87. That's quite a chore. Yeah, please, thank you. Medical Director, Tyndale Nursing Home, from 76 to 84. The coroner of the region of Peel. How you cram so much, as I said, in 50 years, absolutely remarkable. And then a whole host of committees that he sat on as well with regards to the city and the province. So with that, a very distinguished gentleman who I have the pleasure of introducing for some remarks on this very special day, Dr. Martin Dobkin.
Rabbi Kelman, Mayor McCallion, Councillor Yanika, friends, colleagues, guests. It was exactly 20 years ago that I decided to run for the mayor of the first city of Mississauga. I'd never run for office before. My next door neighbor was my campaign manager. Other neighbors played major roles in my campaign. My garage was my campaign headquarters. I raised the mortgage on my house to pay for the campaign. Our term of office was very turbulent and very productive. Our political opponents were relentless in their opposition constantly for the entire 3 years. Dozens and dozens of members of staff quit on us. But we worked hard and we persevered and we never forgot the reason why we were elected. We were elected to change the way the city was being run, the way things were being handled. And we never forgot that. Our motto when we ran for election was make Mississauga livable. And that's what we had our sights on for the entire term of office. Our accomplishments were many. First and foremost, I think what we accomplished was the way in which affairs were handled at the city. We inaugurated an era of openness, of democracy, of citizen participation. Secondly, we did the majority of the work on the new official plan, which, while it doesn't mean much to most people, as Hazel and the other councillors can attest, that was a very significant undertaking. And as you see in front of you all over Mississauga, the beautiful city that's blossomed since into one of the premier communities in North America. Almost all of that development has occurred as a result of that official plan, which we worked on so diligently for the entire 3 years. Our term of office was also very productive in terms of construction. Many libraries were completed during our term. The Lakeview Library, Credit Woodlands Library, and of course the crown jewel, the Burnhamthorpe Library. The Lorne Park Library was also completed. We also saw the construction of 2 major community centers, the Malton Community Center and the Mississauga Valley Community Center. We also constructed the Mississauga Transit Headquarters, which is still standing to this day, not very far from here. Our term of office also saw the acquisition of millions and millions and millions of dollars of land, which has been set aside for the public, for future generations. First and foremost, there was the acquisition of the Rattray Marsh, which is an ecological treasure for the entire country. We purchased the Cawthra Elliott Estate, the Adamson Estate, the Cooksville Creek lands, the Morning Dew Estates, and on and on and on. I think, Hazel, during that first term, we spent in excess of $13 million. That was 20 years ago for the acquisition of these public lands. Now, all of this wasn't achieved just by myself alone. I had a lot of help. When I was elected in 1973, not only did the people elect for a change at the top, but they also elected for almost an entire change of council. A lot of new faces joined council with me. And without their support, none of that would have been possible. And I'd like to recognize those people here today because they formed part of the success that we had, and I feel are a part of this park today also. First new face on council was that feisty fighter from Streetsville, Hazel McCallion. And there's Mary Helen Spence from Clarkson Lorne Park, Hubert Wolf, who's with us today from Port Credit, Kay Killaby, David Cullum, who's still on council today. David really has blossomed out into really a premier ecologist in this city. And we had holdovers from the previous council. There was Bud Gregory and Ron Searle. Ron went on to become mayor after me, and he served one term between my term and Hazel's term. See, Ron beat me and Hazel beat him. And then we have Frank McKechnie, who's with us today. Frank is otherwise known as the Mayor of Malton. Frank's been on council for, must be around 30 years now, in and about. And I'm very glad Frank's with us. Frank is with us today. Frank was one of our most solid supporters on the new council. And Harold Kennedy. Harold is also on council and has been on council, I think, just as long as Frank. There's a slight difference between the two of them as to how long they've served on council. The genesis for this park came about 7 or 8 years ago. And at that time, I was approached by the city and given a choice. They said I could either have a street named after me or a park. And what would I like? Well, naturally, I took the park. involved in that process of starting the seedling for this park and until the beautiful facility that we see here today. Several people were involved. First, I'd like to recognize the homeowners group of the area at that time, which I believe was called the Ward 4 core area. This area is now in Ward 7, but for a long period of time, this area was part of Ward 4. I'd also like to recognize Councillor Larry Taylor, who was a councillor of Ward 4 at the time, who played a significant role in the naming of this park. I'd also like to thank the council of the day, and of course, my old friend and political ally, Hazel McCallion. I'd like to give a special thanks to Hazel, not only for Hazel's participation in the naming of this park and the building of this park, but also I think the legacy that we left, which was make Mississauga livable. Hazel, I think, has admirably carried on in this tradition. And over the last 20 years, which have been probably the most significant period of growth in this city, the city has truly blossomed. I think the city's fortunate to have had a personality and a devoted person like Hazel at its helm, guiding the city through this controversial period of development. I remember that time when I decided to run for mayor. I'm glad Hazel mentioned it because I was going to. I announced in the summer of '72 that I was going to run for the mayor of the city of Mississauga. And around November, December, I received a call from Mayor Hazel McCallion. Hazel was the mayor of the town of Streetsville. So I was quite honored to be called by a mayor, and I drove up to Streetsville. And I don't know if Hazel remembers, but it was a cold day and it was snowing. It was a miserable day. And Hazel's office was in the former Town of Streetsville building, which is a beautiful old, centuries-old Ontario Heritage House. And she shared it with the Streetsville Police Department. And I went in there and sat down, and Hazel looked at me, and she said, "Are you really going to run for mayor?" And I said, "Yes, I'm running for mayor." And she said, "Well, what experience do you have?" I said, "None." And she tried to talk me out of it, because Hazel wanted to run for mayor too.
That's wrong.
So, no, I told Hazel I was determined and had been working on it for a year already, and my literature was already published, and my signs were almost done, and my campaign committee was in place, and that I told her that I thought I had a good chance, at least a 50-50 chance of winning. I don't think Hazel shared that belief. And I ran and I won, and Hazel won, and as I say, a new reformed council was ushered in at that time. I'd also like to personally thank Ian Scott. Ian worked for the City of Mississauga when I became mayor and has been on staff for a long time. Ian has been very helpful and very supportive. Ian is the Commissioner of Parks and Recreation. And Ian has had a large hand, not only in the construction of this beautiful facility, but in many of the other beautiful facilities that have been built in the City of Mississauga over the many years. So to Ian and his staff, I'd like to congratulate him and let him know that we're all very thankful for his efforts and hopes he stays on for many, many, many years in the City of Mississauga, paving the way for our recreational facilities. Thank you, Ian. My family's been introduced. There are two members who I'd like to recognize who are not with us today. Our oldest son, Edward, is a yeshiva student in the United States, and he can't be here today. And of course, my father, who died 4 years ago. He knew about this park, and although he's not with us physically, he is with us here spiritually today. In conclusion, the Dobkin family wishes to thank all of our colleagues, friends, relatives, and supporters who have come out to be with us today to share in this great honor, the pride, and the joy of today. Thank you very much.
I remember that day.
Dr. Dobkin, thank you for that very, very much. With that, I now would like to invite to the podium, who's with me to say a few words, and also to bless the park, Rabbi Joseph Kelman. Rabbi Kelman.
I got two tough acts to follow. Successful politician and a successful doctor. We'll do the best we can. Mr. Chairman, Mayor McCallion, Dr. Dobkin, members of the Dobkin family who are sharing in the nachas, which means the joy of this afternoon, friends of Mississauga. First, I want to thank both Marty and Hazel for giving the opportunity to visit Mississauga. Of course, it took 18 years between the visits. I was here when Marty was inaugurated, and I've seen a tremendous change since then, but I won't wait that long to come back. And 18, of course, represents Chai, which in Hebrew means life, and certainly there's been a tremendous amount of life in every aspect in Mississauga in these 18 years. Secondly, one of my functions is to bless the park, but I have a feeling that since we're going to ask God's blessings, that this afternoon, I think Marty could be the rabbi and I could be the congregant, and I'll tell you why. Because he called me about 7 months ago and asked me to arrange my calendar to be present, and I said, what's the weather going to be like? He said, I assure it's going to be perfect weather. So he must have a direct channel to God, especially as you know, one of the names for a doctor is Rofeh Cholim. And every day we pray to God that he should send good messengers with capable and gifted hands and sensitive hearts and minds, doctors like the Dobkin brothers and others, who certainly perform their duties as a work of love, not only as a profession. You know, almost 2,000 years ago, one of the greatest sages in Jewish life was a man called Hillel. Hillel the sage, who, the mayor will be interested in hearing this, began life as a person who cut down trees. He was a woodcutter and helped make parks, I'm sure. Anyways, it was Hillel who in one of his famous dictums said, Al tifrosh min hatzibur. Regardless who you are, you must not separate yourself from the rest of the community. And I think it was to the credit of Marty that close to 20 years ago, as a young physician, just beginning to establish his family in Mississauga, that he hearkened unto those words and felt that if it meant sacrificing his family or having a mortgage or what have you, that it was important that we make a contribution to the lives of the neighbors and friends. And at that time, he ran for mayor, as you heard, and certainly helped establish this wonderful community, and is being honored this afternoon to have this park named in his honor. I think it's an appropriate time to have a park dedicated to Mississauga, because I think you've done a much more effective job than George Bush is doing in Rio de Janeiro at the environmental conference. Because Bush doesn't know anything about the environment that you do. So I think it's a wonderful thing that we appreciate that when the Almighty created the world, he said first out loud to the angels, Tache oretz desha, let the earth sprout forth green and let it give fruits. And in the way we talk about fruits, we talk in Hebrew about eitz achayim. Fruits, of course, can only grow when you have roots. And to a certain extent, you're honoring Martin Dobkin because he gave roots to the development and progress of Mississauga when he served as first mayor in such a capable manner. I'm proud of him as a congregant, as a friend. Perhaps you're not aware that he's been involved in other organizations. He was president of ORT, president of a synagogue, and yet has not neglected his family, his practice. So I think he lives up very well to the dictum, Al tifrosh min hatzibur, do not separate yourself from the community. Don't be involved only with your own selfish needs. I'd like to conclude by invoking God's blessings and realizing that in certain ways, the very naming of the park is a prayer in itself. And I say that because we pray every day, Jews, Christians, what have you, and we must pray because we should not take our blessings for granted. We wake up in the morning and do not have to visit a doctor. We have reason to be thankful. We pray to express gratitude, and gratitude is something that is often forgotten in public life. Martin didn't enter into public life for any thanks, but I'm delighted, and I said so to my congregation yesterday. We had close to 1,000 people when I announced this afternoon ceremony, and I said it's wonderful, and I gave Mississauga a plug in North York. It's wonderful. Mel doesn't come to my shul. I don't know where he goes. I hope he does. Anyways, I said to my congregation of a large crowd that I'm very appreciative, and I said that seriously, that the City Council of Mississauga understands the importance of expressing appreciation, because that too is a sense of prayer. So may we join together in our prayer that the Dr. Martin L. Dobkin Community Center indeed will be a place where people will come to commune with nature, to meditate. I myself, my first ambition in life was to be the manager of the Brooklyn Dodgers, not a rabbi. So I'm delighted that you have sports facilities here for children to appreciate the importance of physical nourishment. And indeed, may those who enter this park be blessed. There's a Hebrew expression that I'd like to conclude with that says, Baruch atov v'yecha, Baruch atov v'tzeisecha. Blessed was Martin when he entered into public life. Even as he left it partially, he deserves God's blessings. And the same prayer I say, for all who enter this park, may you have God's blessings as you leave it, for life, for health, peace, justice, and dignity for all. Amen. And to you, Mazel Tov, Martin.
Thank you very much. Rabbi Kelman, thank you very much for those prophetic words. Okay, all that remains is the official ribbon cutting, but before I do that, I just quickly do want to acknowledge and thank the special contributions of some groups, various groups that are here with us today. Some will be doing sports exhibits, some help with the preparation, some provided the food and the services today. The Mississauga Royal Special Olympic Softball for the sports exhibit, the Fairview Community Tennis Club, and I say Fairview because that has a special meaning to them. The sports exhibit, they'll be doing Mississauga Soccer Club, the sports exhibit, Arundel and Bloor Baseball Association sports exhibit, Cooksville Boy Scouts sports exhibit. And I understand they're also distributing the drinks that Canada Dry has provided for free today so that we can toast 125 years of Canada as well, that we'll do at the end of the ceremony. The Lobes Plaza, which assisted in the barbecue, great corporate citizens that are here just across the road. Father Michael Gates Secondary School, advertising in the facility, the Public Affairs Division of the Corporate Services Department for the organization, and of course our Rec and Parks. So with that, I'd like to call up the Dobkin family, Dr. Martin Dobkin and the Mayor, to come forward. I think I have the scissors right here. If you would come forward for the formal ribbon cutting, please. And with that, the Dr. Martin Park is officially open. With that, we just have one other item left. I'm going to call upon Her Worship Mayor McCallion for some concluding remarks.
Thank you. Today in Canada, it is National Neighborhood Party Day. All across the country, people like us are celebrating right now to show everyone how much we value our communities and neighborhoods. And we can think in the City of Mississauga of a better way to mark a celebration of communities' goodwill and friendship than by opening a community park and honoring the first mayor of Mississauga. So I can assure you that we're delighted to have you all here today, and I hope you all have a cup of Canada Dry. Do you? No? You all have it? So let's raise our cup of Canada Dry to the best country in the world, Canada, 125 anniversary. And let's all sing happy birthday. birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Canada. Happy birthday to you. Great. Wonderful. Okay, Councillor.
Thank you for that. With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. Thank you to the Dobkin family, Rabbi Kelman, and everybody else who partook. The ceremonies are officially over. Please enjoy the park and the festivities in terms of the soccer games and everything else that will take place. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful afternoon.
There's only one at Toronto. Correct.
Yeah, there's your first secretary.
So you got the photographer, is that him?
There's your balloon. There.
That was Credit. Oh, sure. I'll make another speech. I've only made about 5 today. Matinee, you want to come to Shul Shabbos, get an aliyah?
He likes me doing things. Well, he's doing them. Yeah. Some people like to do it, they don't.
That's right. They don't stay the same.
Here.
Wait. Where's Martin? Go with that. Martin.
Looking up here. Thank you. There, come on over just a little so I can see you, gentlemen. We got a couple people snuck in on the end here. Good. Well, let's get them. One more. Looking up here. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, want to stay?
You can get your face painted?
My brother wants to stay.